3 years. 3 years later, the sitting president who sent those 13 young service members to die in Afghanistan on vacation has refused to say their names, by the way. His vice president, who is currently running for commander-in-chief, also nowhere to be found, certainly not giving a news conference. And Trump, who visited Arlington today, called him out.
Where is our president? We don't even have a president. We have a fascist person running who's incompetent, and we have a president who's not even around. He went to California for a vacation because they threw him essentially out of the party. And then he came back home and I said, oh, is he going to go to the White House? No, he went to Delaware to take another vacation.
Yeah, and then Kamala Harris's VP candidate, Tim Walz, who has staked his entire persona around being a veteran, however embellished his career is also nowhere to be found. And then the one guy who the left criticizes for not joining the military is laying a wreath with the wounded in the Gold Star family. You tell me who is more respectful here. This is why my brothers and sisters in arms overwhelmingly support Donald Trump, because he's the only guy who cared enough to go honor them. The guy who wasn't responsible for any of their deaths, by the way. Kamala and Biden both released statements today. I'd bet, honestly, they haven't even read either of them, because Biden listed the names of the soldiers, but he hasn't done that publicly. His statement today tried to lay this at the feet of the suicide bomber. He said, we also owe their brothers and sisters in arms who served and sacrificed for our freedoms and future during America's longest war. 20,744 American service members were wounded and 2,461 made the ultimate sacrifice. He also said, if I ever since I became vice president, when he was with Barack Obama, I carried a card with me every day that listed the exact numbers of American service members who were killed in Iraq and Afghanistan. That's such that he didn't do that. I know that for a fact. No apology at all for destroying like 20 years worth of effort and a quick victory lap saying, oh, today's longest war was over. It's not over. The enemy gets a say on that. And when I see them parading around with $80 billion worth of our military equipment in celebration, they think they won. We might not be fighting over there anymore, but does this right here look like an exit from a bunch of winners? No, this looks like a desperate flee for political purposes. Not one service member on the ground that saw this firsthand thinks this was handled correctly. And despite her best efforts, Kamala cannot, and thankfully, we're not going to let her either, she cannot unshackle herself from this debacle.
President Biden always said that he wants you to be the last person in the room, particularly for big decisions, just as he was for President Obama. He just made a really big decision. Afghanistan.
Yes.
Were you the last person in the room?
Yes.
And you feel comfortable?
I do.
We won't forget that while you're sitting 30 feet apart because you're afraid of COVID or whatever, super vaccinated. Look, if you remember her laughing when addressing reporters on this too.
Hey, listen, so I'm going to, hold on. Slow down, everybody. I want to talk about two things. First, Afghanistan.
If the U.S. military had incurred casualties and you knew about it, you should not be laughing. And her statement today wasn't any better. I mean, it was crazy. As I have said, President Biden made the courageous decision to end America's longest war. No. What part about that is courageous? Don't even get me started on your VP guy, Tim Walz. He lied about being in Afghanistan. He lied about his rank. He dipped out of a deployment, lied about carrying weapons of war at war, lied about a DUI, lied about being a head coach, lied about IVF, and is somehow going to lecture us on honor? Hard pass from both of you guys. I'm glad he kept his mouth shut on this one today, seeing how he abandoned his unit, of which actually went to Iraq and lost soldiers. These people are a complete joke. What is it going to take for these people, the Democrat Party, to start and understand that this was your fault, Democrats? She better jump on like a rapid learning curve real quick about how stuff and our enemies actually work in this world. These people have no clue, no idea of the sacrifice, that feeling of being pinned down by gunfire, not knowing if you're ever going to hug your wife, kids, or parents again. That's a really bad feeling. You think Kamala Harris, God forbid she becomes president, you think she understands the gravity of a decision to send our nation's best on like multiple deployments to engage in a conflict like that? Sometimes longer than 16 months with nothing more than 5 minutes of phone call privileges a day, if you're lucky, to hear your kids grow up while you're 5,000 miles away trading lead because you thought, as I did, you were fighting for something bigger, only to have it handed right back over to the same people you've been fighting for the last 20 years. Great job. You send out some stupid written statement by some white shoe consultant. I'm sure that comforts the families of the almost 3,000 Americans killed. I'm sure that makes up for all the missed soccer games, the graduations, the missed birthday parties that my brothers and sisters missed while going to fight that war that you just handed back to the same people. And when we do come home, sometimes in boxes, by the way, this is the respect we get from our commander-in-chief, checking his watch. You got somewhere better to be? Go. No wonder we can't fill the ranks in the military. Just this weekend, the Navy came out and said, oh, hey, we might have to dock 17 ships because we don't have enough people to crew them. The Afghanistan debacle is exactly why. But this administration doesn't even think about that, and they don't never want to change their policy. They never want to issue an apology. No, we're not going to do that. Instead, they're just happy to have drag queens strutting around on aircraft carriers while bodies come home draped in the same flag that Kamala Harris bailed people out for burning. You see why I don't like her? Kamala Harris kicked out anyone who didn't get a vaccine they didn't want or maybe need. And they spent more effort on studying white rage than combat readiness. And then they nominated a guy to pick up their Democrat torch who, by all available information, appears to be guilty of stolen valor. And yet no focus or PR firm or any group has been able to get through to these people and say, hey, what you are doing is completely idiotic. I wouldn't advise my kids or anyone else to join the military either under these circumstances. Look, again, Trump may not have served in the military, but neither did Biden, and certainly neither did Kamala Harris, so stop with that. And I really couldn't care less about the only thing that libs bring up when they talk about Trump, his draft deferments in Vietnam. As someone who served at the tip of the spear, I don't care. Anyone who does is probably a Democrat and wasn't going to vote for Trump anyway, so just shut up. No one wanted to join during Vietnam for the same reason no one wants to join now, because LBJ was president doing similar things, and this administration is right now, not backing up our troops. Trump understands the sacrifices that were made, like today. That's why he was there. I know this guy personally. Every time I talk to him, former president of the United States, got way bigger things to worry about. He thanks me for my service because he remembers and he respects it. Trump's given more to this country than I ever did. And I can say this would not have happened if Trump had been president. I bet that for sure. I bet the farm on that. Oh, how can you say that? Well, because it didn't happen. And it didn't happen under his watch because Trump, he took a satellite picture of a terrorist leader's home, sent it to him, and said, if you kill Americans, I will turn you, your family, your neighborhood into pink mist and Lake America. Because that's how people who actually believe in America sound. How people who put American interests and those we send into harm's way first, and terrorists and stupid political timelines last. That is why Trump was invited by the families of the fallen today. Kamala didn't even bother. These Americans didn't give their lives. They were taken. They were taken by bad policy from the Biden-Harris administration, which, folks, Kamala Harris is picking the torch up for. And anyone else who thinks Afghanistan withdrawal was some kind of a success, you're in that boat too. And if you think I'm wrong, consider this. Seriously, put the partisan crap aside. If your son or daughter right now is at war, think about this. Who do you want backing them up when they get into their first gunfight? You want the social justice warrior and the Democrats with their drag queens and DEI requirements? Or do you want the guy who took the top half of a mountain off with the world's most powerful non-nuclear explosive, the Moab? Stew on that one, libs.